hate to break it to you, but you will hit ceilings and plateaus at multiple points in your business journey, just in case no one told you. I didn't know this. And so when I hit certain ceilings, I was so frustrated and I thought I was doing something wrong and I thought my business was broken and I was doomed, but I wasn't. And so in this episode, I'm going to talk you through the 3 core plateaus and ceilings that you will hit on your journey to $1 million a year and exactly what I did to bust through them. Let's do it. The way I see it, there are 3 big stages of growth and there are 3 ceilings that you will hit. And I kind of wish someone had told me this when I was on this journey because it maybe would have helped me to recognize what season I was in. So I'm going to walk you through these and kind of give you some context of what you need to do to bust through that ceiling and specifically what I did to bust through that ceiling. So let's think about it like this. So we've got revenue and then we've got time, right? Let's think about the core journeys that most of us go through on our way to, let's say, 100K months. And this is what I found in my journey. So if we think about it like we've got this journey up here to 100K a month, there are really 3 distinct phases. So phase 1 is where you hit 10K a month. Okay, so that first phase, when you hit 10K a month, it's about leads, clients, and confidence. And most of the time, you're doing it on your own. To get to that 10K, you're kind of doing it on your own. You probably don't outsource anything. You probably don't have any team. It's just you, your computer, and you're doing the work, right? That's the 10K ceiling there. The next ceiling happens around about when you hit 30K, anywhere between 30 to 50K a month. So what happens if I could think about, well, what defines this 30K a month season? It's really about building the structure. It's about your systems. It's about team, and it's about focusing on the money makers. So what I find happens when most people go from this 10K to 30K, like that's tripling your business. That's a big leap. When most people jump from 10K to 30K, this is when you can kind of start offering too many things. You can start to lose your profit. You can start to become a bit bloated in the business. And you can start to lose focus of, okay, what are the money makers in my business? What are the systems that I need to build out? Who do I need to invest in to support me so that I can sustain this growth? And then if I think about the 100K, like 30K to 100K a month, and if I think about what defines this 100K a month, I think it really comes down to scale, leverage, and authority. So when we're thinking about scale, we're thinking, okay, do you have capacity? Do you have the container to be the kind of person who can hit 100K a month? Are you actually willing to do the work to become the CEO, not just the operator, not just the technician anymore? And then we have leverage, which is, okay, are you trading your time for money or have you built a business that operates without you, that runs without you? So that's a really important piece. And then authority is both internally, within your team. Can you lead your team? Do you have authority in that space? And then the second piece is, in your brand and in your niche, do you have authority? Are you owning the space that you are in? Are you the go-to? Do people follow you and go, oh my gosh, you're kind of famous in your niche? That's the kind of authority we want to build when we are aiming for this 100K a month. Those are kind of the 3 distinct phases and what really happens at each phase. And if I could sum up what this is all about here, the 0 to 10K is all about the foundations. It's about laying the foundations. The 10 to 30 is about building the structure. Building the structure. Think about building a house. You lay the foundations first, then you build the structure. Maybe you put in the frames, right? And then for this 30 to 100K a month, it's all about scaling up from there. So we've got foundations, we've got structure, we've got scale. Those are kind of the 3 big things that happen. This probably kind of makes sense, right? We're kind of thinking about, okay, I've got to make money. To hit 10K a month, I've just got to get clients. To hit 30K a month, I've really got to build systems and start thinking about team. To hit 100K a month, I've got to really think about my mindset. How do I lead? How do I have leverage? Is this business scalable? Now, if we think about, well, what keeps you stuck at 10K a month? What's the ceiling that you're going to hit in that 10K a month? You're doing everything yourself and you're in the revenue roller coaster. Money comes in, money goes out, feast and famine mode. It's this vicious cycle because you're still doing everything yourself. You don't have time or capacity. If we were to think about what happens at this 30K point, what keeps you stuck at this 30K point, there are a couple of big things. Number one, delivery breaks. So let's say you're a web designer. You could only design so many websites in a month. So you start to hit a capacity ceiling because you can only take on so many clients. You start outsourcing, maybe you start working with some freelancers, but it doesn't quite work. That's when your delivery breaks. This is that ceiling when you're at that 30K a month because you can't quite afford to invest in really amazing talent yet. And so you kind of are still on the tools. Maybe you've got someone working with you part-time. They maybe don't do it as well as you do, and delivery doesn't feel as good, and that's the constraint for you. The second big thing that happens here is your capacity. Again, you'd be amazed at how many people at 30K a month are wearing all the hats and doing everything themselves. So the delivery breaks, you hit your capacity ceiling, you run out of time to work on the business, you run out of time to actually lead your team, train up a team, and you're just in a world of pain. Honestly, this 30K to 50K a month for me was this, I'm still wearing all the hats, I'm doing sales, I'm doing marketing, I'm doing delivery, I'm responsible for all the things still. Even though I had a virtual assistant, even though I had someone supporting me with coaching, I was still responsible for everything. And so what I had to do is I had to actually move into this leadership phase where I said, I'm going to hire people who are responsible for their roles. And so that's what got me out of this 30 to 50K ceiling. And then this 100K a month, what happens at this 100K a month ceiling? It's really interesting because, again, as I said at the beginning, I didn't know that there were these key junctures in the business journey, the 10K, 30K, 100K a month. I didn't know that at each point in this journey, there are sticky bits. There are sticky points where it's like, ooh, this doesn't feel good. I didn't know that. And so the 1 to 3 mil a year is a sticking point. I'm learning this. I'm learning this right now. The 1 to 3 mil is like everyone that I've spoken to who is like, oh, Laura, you're in that zone right now. They're like, it's a sticking point. And so the ceiling that you hit here is really about your ability to lead. So it's about your leadership. It's about profitability. So what happens again at this level is you start going, cool, well, I can't do everything myself. I've got to have a really amazing head of sales. I've got to have someone looking after my marketing. I've got to have someone supporting my clients. I've got to have a project manager or whatever it is. But what happens is you can get a bit bloated and your profit can start leaking. And so it's kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back in a way, because you have to invest in those people. You have to take that step forward, but it does mean that for a moment, it feels like a step back. That 1 to 3 mil a year, that's the point that we're at the moment. These are our things that we're focusing on. Okay, how do we lead well? How do we keep the business crazy simple and crazy profitable as well? These are the big ideas for each of these core levels. So we've got this, if you're at this 10K a month and that's your ceiling right now, I want to encourage you. You've got to stop DIYing everything. You've got to get off the revenue roller coaster. So we have to get you more leads in. We have to get you making more money so you can bust through that ceiling. If you're at the 30K ceiling right now, and you're like, I will say like the 30K to 50K, that was one of the most painful points in business for me. And I was there for a while. It took me a while to bust through it. But if you're at the 30K at the moment, I want you to really be focusing on the money makers in your business. I want you to be focusing on team, and I want you to be starting to get out of all of the delivery. You can still be in parts of the delivery, but don't be in every single element, okay? You don't want to become a glorified admin person at this level. You've got to be in the money makers, marketing, selling. That's where you've got to be. If you're at the 100K a month and onwards, what I really want you to focus on is, how do I develop as a leader? How do I make sure that I'm tracking my numbers, that I'm showing up like a CEO? How do I make sure that my identity matches the level of where I want to get to next? That's the big thing that I'm focusing on for myself. How do I make sure that I lead? How do I show up like a CEO? What numbers do I need to know? How do I make sure that I'm supporting my team to support my clients? I'm still in the delivery. I'm still involved in the stuff that I love. But how do I make sure that I'm setting up my team so they are responsible for their piece and I'm not responsible for everything. It's really, really important. So when you hit a ceiling in your business, which you will hit ceilings along your journey, and your ceilings may look a little different to mine, but those were my big ceilings that I hit. When you hit a ceiling, you have 3 options. Option number 1 is pain. You hustle harder, you work more, you put everything on your shoulders, and you just keep plodding along on your own. Dan Martell talks about hitting your pain line. We will never grow into pain. And that's why so many people stay stuck, because they're like, oh, that's painful. That costs me too much. I don't want to do that. So that's option A, is pain. Option B is, okay, no, I don't want the pain. I'm going to plateau. I'm going to stay where I am. I'm going to stay stuck. I'm going to stay at this ceiling, and I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to keep doing my thing and just pretend that it's fine. This option feels safer than stepping into the pain and the discomfort, but it's often equally as frustrating. And I would say sometimes it's just as painful as running headfirst into the pain, right? So the plateau is option B. Option C is you make a plan. You identify, okay, I know what my bottleneck is here. I know what I need to do. I'm going to come up with a plan so that I can confidently bust through this ceiling and this roadblock in my business. And it's also feeling that when we have a plan, we can confidently go, okay, this is normal. Every single person goes through these seasons, hits these ceilings at certain points, and they just have to identify, all right, let's make a plan. What am I going to do from here? My kind of recommendation would be go with option C, make a plan. Don't go into the pain zone. Don't go into the plateau zone. Go into the plan zone. Now, when it comes to actually making the plan, there are 5 key questions I want you to ask. Question number 1, what is the constraint you need to solve? When we can identify what the actual bottleneck is, then we can fix it. You need to spend way more time identifying the constraint than you do actually solving the thing. Once you know what you need to do, it's like, cool, I know I need to solve this problem. But you can spend a long time solving the wrong problem, okay? Number 2, who can help me? Not how can I do it? There's this great book called Who, Not How. We need to be asking more questions of who. Who do I know who's really good at this? Who can support me with this? Who can I hire to help me with this? Not how can I do it? Because that DIY attitude is not going to get you to $1 million a year. Okay? So who can help me? Not how can I do it? Number 3, this is a big one. If you're stuck and if you've like, oh man, I'm at a bit of a plateau right now. The question you need to ask is, how much is not growing costing me? How much is not growing costing you? I had a conversation with one of our members, and she's just hit 50K a month. She'll probably hit 60K a month this month. And she came to a call and she's like, Laura, I've got so many people wanting to work with me at the moment, and I don't know what, something's happened. And she's like, and I'm really freaking anxious and I'm stressed out. And just yesterday I had 2 new clients sign on, and I haven't said yes to them yet, but I'm really nervous about my capacity, and I'm nervous about how are we going to actually, support it in the delivery. I was like, how much is that client worth? Those 2 clients. She's like, oh, it'd be an extra 10K a month. I was like, okay, cool. So at the moment, your lack of capacity is costing you 10K a month, 120K a year. She was like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, who could you hire to support you for 120K a year, maybe even less? Who could you hire so that you can take those clients on? How much is not growing actually costing you? Sometimes we can think, oh no, it's fine. I'll just push them off, or I'll have a wait list, or I'll send them somewhere else. And it's like, no. What would it look like if you could take on more clients? And what is the actual dollar figure that is worth? If they stay with you for a year, that's 120K. Like, what is that actually worth to you? And then we can go, okay, I'm crazy if I don't hire someone else to support with this. I'm crazy if I don't figure out a way to take on these clients. So how much is not growing actually costing you? Question number 4. This is my favorite. What would it look like if it were easy? I'm just paraphrasing this. I spelt like wrong. What would it look like if it were easy? If business was like, calm, if it wasn't anxious, if it was like, oh my gosh, clients come to me, they pay me what I want, I get to work with amazing people, I get to do this really great work, I get to work whatever hours I want. What would this actually look like if it were easy? What would your business model look like if it were easy? What would your home life look like if it were easy? What would your client load or your team look like if it were easy? And actually, no, this is my favorite question. And I hope you don't get offended by this question. What would I do if I weren't being a little bitch? What would you do if you weren't being a little bitch? Now, I have to say this to myself sometimes. I'm like, Laura, are you being brave or are you being a little bitch? And it's good to just ask yourself the question, am I actually doing this from a place of like, I'm confident, I'm a badass, I'm powerful? Or am I doing it from a place of fear, of scarcity, of what if it doesn't work out? And what if the world just word vomit of worry and scarcity and fear and weirdness. What would I do if I weren't being a little bitch right now? And if I were brave? And I hope that you don't get offended by that. And I need you to know, I ask myself these questions often. So what is the constraint that I have to solve to get through this ceiling? Who can help me? Not just how can I do it? How much is not growing actually costing me today? What would it look like if it were easy? And what would I do if I weren't a little bitch? Weren't being a little bitch. You're not a little bitch, but if you were acting like a little bitch, I would have to tell you. That's just the truth. All right, my friend, if you've hit any of those plateaus, any of those ceilings in your business, I want you to know, firstly, you're completely normal. It is so normal to hit ceilings in your journey, and it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It just means that you need to show up differently to get to that next level. Now, if you are kind of like, oh, I just need a system, I need a plan to follow to actually bust through whatever ceiling I'm at, whether it's 10K, whether it's 30K, whether you're like, I just want to get to that 100K a month, then I want to invite you to do a new training I just created. It is called the 7-Figure Operating System. And it's where I walk you through the 3 core engines you need to build a sustainable 7-figure creative business. So if you want to do that, all you need to do is click the link in the show notes and you can access it right away. That system is going to absolutely change the way you think about your business and how you show up in your business, regardless of what level you are at. So all you need to do is hit the link in the show notes to access the 7-Figure Operating System. It's free and it's the first thing I would send any creative who is stuck at a ceiling right now. So make sure you check that out. Also, if you love this episode, please hit subscribe or follow wherever you are listening or watching this, and please share it with a friend. I'll catch you soon.